Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa Cantley. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the C-Suite Mentor podcast. Today, and it's so funny because I don't know why we never had, and I said this to you the other day, I don't know why we never had you on the podcast before, which is like insane. But I am joined today by, she is not only my right hand in my business, but she has become a very dear friend of mine. Probably one of the people that I am closest to in life. I mean, she knows all the ins and outs of Theresa Cantley, which is a little frightening. But she is, like I said, she is not only my right hand, she is a very dear friend. And she also, at one point in time, was someone who I coached. So Katy, and I'm going to pronounce your last name wrong. Is it Hommes? I've never asked you that.
Yes.
Hommes. Okay.
Got it.
Hommes. Katy Hommes. I should know that.
Why would you? We don't talk about that.
No. Katy, thank you so much for joining me. We have quite an episode today, don't we?
We do. I'm excited.
This is something totally different that we're going to do. It came from having a conversation we were talking about, because everybody knows I'm writing my first book. Mm-hmm. And we were having a conversation about an epiphany that I had about redefining, really what does it mean to find someone's inner greatness and development? What does that really mean? And I talk about it in my book, so I'm not going to go into it here on the podcast. And we started talking, and I said to her, I said, we should do a podcast episode on this.
Yes.
And I said, why have I never had you on the podcast? And
that is funny because all we do is talk about topics and solutions. And then we've never come up with or I ask you questions all of the time. So this is the perfect format to, get my crazy questions answered. And everybody else can hear them too.
I know. And everybody else can meet you. So yeah. Katy, besides doing what you do with me, tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, so I started a small independent brand. The name is Rin. And I guess before I became like an independent designer, it was a boutique. So it was a slow fashion boutique. I sold clothes from brands and designers that focused on sustainability. Everything was natural fabrics, natural fibers. And kind of with Theresa's guidance, I've evolved into becoming my own designer. So right now I'm in the process of launching my first collection, it's a crazy time to be doing that. There's a lot of ups and downs, but one of the best things about working with Theresa is I have her as a sounding board. So it's a really nice way to get advice and, a second pair of eyes on something. This is the first time I've done it. So having you as a sounding board is just been wonderful. And like you said, coming from having been coached by you to now working with you and alongside you, it's kind of a cool evolution. And I get to learn new things every day.
I was going to say it's a progression, but it's not. I don't know. There's some days where I'm like, are you sure you want to do this?
Oh my gosh. That's funny when you say that too, because I feel like every time you're going through one of those things, it's like a breakthrough moment. Like we're coming out with something new or you're trying something different. And it's just that, I don't even know what to call it. It's the self-sabotage that comes in like, oh, I don't, and so working through that together, it helps me too. It's very inspiring to see all the hard work and things that you do.
It's funny because I don't always think about myself, with the imposter syndrome or, because I'm constantly coming up with new ideas and things that I want to do. And Katy knows, like, there are many times where I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do this. And I doubt myself. And, I talk about it all the time about how to help others and forget that at the same time, like I go through it myself,
I think that's
So
what makes you such an influential and strong coach, though, because you are able to be like, hey, I've actually been through that. I'm going through that. I have enough humility to admit, this is a hard time for me. And you're not acting like you're up here rather than where, the rest of your mentees are or the people that you're coaching, which I admire about you. And I think that you own that you're going through it. And you'll say, I coach people on this. I should be able to do this. You have enough humility to understand and maybe put yourself in their shoes when you're coaching them. Like, I do feel like that too. Maybe I'm pushing you too much. Maybe we can approach it in a different way, which has been effective for me to learn and to watch.
You know what? That is true. And I never thought about that. And one of the things that we talk about is, I became a coach based on what I was going through myself, whether it was leading teams, coming out of corporate America, starting a business, working with other business owners. Like everything that I teach, it comes from my own experience, especially as it relates to things that I'm going through myself. And it's the conversations that a lot of people don't want to talk about because everybody looks at like, you're an entrepreneur. It's funny because people look at you like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, and they think you're like a bajillionaire. And people also think like, oh, they're perfect. They never have any kind of doubt. And the truth is that you do. Like that doubt creeps up. And I am, and I say it, I am not immune to it. Like, in fact, like it's like a daily thing sometimes, but you get through it. And I think that doubt, it's a flaw, but those flaws actually become our greatest strengths. And I think one of the things that I've learned to do with your help is ask that doubt questions. Ask that doubt and ask that fear, like, okay, why is this coming up? Like, why, like, I want to launch this new thing, or I want to, I want to get into speaking, like, which is something that I'm doing, or, with writing my book, and a lot of fear and a lot of self-doubt comes up more than I've ever had before, like way more. And, just learning how to ask it questions, like, what is this supposed to be teaching me? What am I supposed to learn from this? Why is this coming up now? And I think, a lot of people don't want to ask the question. Either they run away from the fear, or they think, oh, well, I'm just broken, or I just, like that's not a strength of mine. And then they go the other direction instead of leaning into it and saying, what do I need to get out of this? So I think that's a big thing.
Do you think part of the fear has to do with overwhelm? Because oftentimes, I don't want to say that I'm fearful. I'm just overwhelmed. Like I don't know what my next best step to take is. And then I go from 0 to 60, like, oh, and now I have to have a fully functioning website and lookbooks and this and that. And I'm like sitting here trying to pick out my fabrics. Like for me, there's no in between the beginning and the end. Like, how do you not get overwhelmed along the way? Like, how do you keep your footing and just take one step at a time without trying to do everything at once?
Yeah. It is a thing, especially like people who are true entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs. They do want to take everything on, and they do go from, okay, I have an idea, and then they go to like 1,000, and then they don't, they get burned out or stressed out or overwhelmed. And overwhelm, what I've learned myself, what's underlying in that is the fear of, it's really what it comes down to is like, it's almost like a fear of success and the fear of leaning into the unknown. So I'll give you an example. I work with someone, he's a leader in a business that I run, and he is constantly telling me he's overwhelmed. And the reason, and whenever he says that to me, we have to backtrack and we have to say, okay, like, what are you overwhelmed? And what happens is the next piece of it is, what are you committing yourself to? Well, in his case, when he tells me that, he's committing to being a firefighter. He's committing to trying to solve problems for absolutely everybody. And that's what a lot of business owners do, or trying to do everything, or or thinking, well, I need to do this and I need to do this and I need to do this. And what it comes down to is, again, in his case, he has a fear of doing things differently. He has a
Interesting.
fear of leaving that comfort zone because he's been used to that forever. He wants to grow and he says, I'm stressed and I have too much to do. But then he's not willing to because he's afraid of leaning into that unknown and doing things that he's not normally used to doing. And I think a lot of business owners, I mean, overwhelm really is just mismanagement of your time.
Yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
mismanagement of your thoughts around, well, I need to focus on this. That's why a lot of business owners, they end up thinking that they need to do it all, that nobody can do it as good as they can. Nobody can handle it as good as they can. Nobody can, create, nobody can run the business as good as they can, or, whatever. And the truth of the matter is that then when they say they're overwhelmed and it's like, what are you committed to letting go of? Well, nothing.
Yeah.
You can't
I,
have both.
I do wonder if that stems from a perfectionistic personality trait, because for me, I'll say nobody can do it as well as me, because when I have somebody help me with something, I'm never happy. So that might be my problem, or that might be me pinching pennies and not hiring somebody super experienced. There could be a whole reason for why I don't trust other people, but I don't know how to when it doesn't come out.
Yeah, so there's different, and that's absolutely one of it, is that there's different types of entrepreneurs. There's different types of people, and there's different ways that imposter syndrome or self-doubt creeps in. Perfectionism is one of them. People pleasing is another one.
Yeah.
Being a control master is another one. And it like different people have different things. Being somebody like, I'm one of those people that's like, I'm the fixer. Like, I can fix everything. I can fix. And the truth is that what's underneath that is that I have to fix this for everyone, because if they're not successful, then I'm not doing my job, or I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. So there's a people pleasing thing that's underneath there. So with perfectionists, yeah, there is a fear that's underneath that says that if this isn't right, or somebody doesn't do it as good as I do, it's going to fail, or I'm going to get rejected, or so there's some kind of a fear in there. So overwhelm comes from us working on things that aren't priority, or we're filling our day with stuff that really isn't important, but we think we have to stay busy.
Yeah.
And we're doing tasks that don't fuel us, that don't light us up, that don't bring us joy, or, because we feel like that we have to do this, otherwise the business isn't gonna be successful. Or if you're in a business, if you work in a department, if you're an employee somewhere, well, I have to raise my hand. I have to be busy. This is the misconception about employee value. I have to be busy, because if I'm not, they're gonna think I'm not working. And then what happens is that then we have toxic productivity. So it's people working, like, thinking that they need to do more, they need to be more, they need to strive for more, and then they burn out and they get overwhelmed. So under it all is some form of fear about something, what it's going to mean about you, misplaced meaning, or what it's going to mean about the results that you're looking to get.
I think that's one of my favorite things you talk about, and one of my aha moments is when you talk about I forget how you phrase it. It's like the productivity, but you say like the value. Oh, I think it's employee worth. Like that what worth we place on an employee depends on, how many hours they work and how productive. And it's really much more than that. And I think if leaders can help understand that, they're going to be much better to have much healthier cultures. And that for me I was like, oh, I've never actually worked in an environment where people measured my worth from anything than my results,
Most companies are like that. I mean, I had a client that was an accounting firm, and for all the accountants out there, I apologize for what I don't apologize. I'm not going to apologize, because I'm not going to apologize for who I am, because this is what I believe. But a lot of accounting firms are have a very archaic and broken way of valuing people. And I think businesses do. I just was listening to reading and listening to this masterclass, and they were talking about how Microsoft, under the previous CEO, they had this thing called performance stacking. And with performance stacking, and I think a lot of businesses don't realize this is what they're doing, but this is actually what they're doing. So with performance stacking, and this again leads to overwhelm. And you can see once I explain this why there's a lot of fear behind it. So with performance stacking is you are evaluated on your performance, whether or not you get projects done on time, or whether or not you make money, or whether or not how many tasks you do, how many projects you're willing to take on, how many things you're willing to do on a project, how much you're willing to learn, da 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 da, and you're evaluated on all of that. So the people at the top of the stack, they get the bonuses, they get the and meanwhile they are the ones that have worked 100 hours in a week.
Right.
So they're the ones that get the bonuses and the raises and get the praise and, whatever. And the people at the bottom are threatened that they're going to lose their job. So this was what was happening in Microsoft. Well, what was happening was you had a company full of know-it-alls who were hoarding knowledge, who didn't, in meetings, even though a team would work on something, they didn't give credit to the team. And then what happened was innovation suffered. Things started to go backwards. Microsoft lost market share. People were unhappy and quitting, and everybody paid the price, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what happens when you evaluate people based on that stacked performance. It creates toxic productivity, and it also is a very archaic way of evaluating someone's performance. Leads to stress, anxiety, overwhelm, depression, lack of innovation, lack of new thoughts, new ideas, and really a lack of employee engagement, and really leads to poor morale, right?
Yeah.
So what they did is, and in the accounting industry, heavily, people who work in an accountant's office are evaluated based on their billable hours. Lawyers' offices do the same thing. So what does someone do, especially if you work in an office where work is pooled and you just grab from it? Well, everybody wants to grab the work, and then some people are left with nothing. Other people are like hoarding all of the work because they want to get the most billable hours in. And it starts to breed in an environment like that. People think, well, all that matters to me, or all that matters to them, is if I'm making them money. And you can see that has a lot of fear attached to it, has a lot of imposter syndrome, creates a lot of self-doubt, and creates that feeling of my worth is tied to my performance, not who I am.
Yeah.
So this goes along with the whole build from the inside out, which I talk about in my book, but I talk about it a lot in the work that I'm doing. Is the value of someone comes from who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you recognize that, you're going to be able to align that with the work that they need to do, which is what Microsoft did. So when the new CEO came in, he said, everybody needs to be a learner. I'm a learner. I don't have all the answers. I am not the answer person. And he's like, I want everybody to be curious. I want everybody to be a learner. So what does that do? That opens everybody up to really let their own uniqueness shine. Because if you're curious about something, like let's say you're curious about budgets and I'm curious about budgets, we're going to have two totally different, we're going to come at it from two totally different perspectives. Right. But collectively together, when we put those two perspectives together, like so much innovation and creative ideas can come from that, right? So that's what Microsoft did with the new CEO. And so what happened was he said, I don't want a company full of know-it-alls. I want a company full of people who are curious. I want people who are learners. He's like, I'm learning. And if we can be curious together and we can learn together, he said, we're going to be able to create innovation. Well, so many things have come from Microsoft since he took over. So and what happens now, I don't work for Microsoft, so I'm not in there every day. But what I can guess based on my knowledge from what I've done with businesses and what I've also seen with businesses is when you have an environment that truly cares about people for who they are, and the gifts that they just have inherently. And when you can then align that with what the business truly needs, instead of just plugging people into holes, which is crazy to me. But if you can truly take someone's greatness and align that with what the business needs, then so many creative ideas and so many innovations and so many new things can come out of that.
Yeah.
And that's what businesses miss, especially now.
What do you think the reason for this is? Do you think like they're just so leaders are stuck in their budgets? And they're like, this is your pigeonhole. This is your pigeonhole. This is what the budget allows. Or do you think they just don't have this knowledge?
I think it's actually both. I think that business leaders, whether they're CEOs or just people in executive roles or even leadership roles, the world is changing so fast. Technology is changing fast. The economy is changing. Economy changes freaking minute by minute now. But so much stuff is changing, and that rate of change has increased so much that people who are in leadership positions, they can't keep up, or they don't have those skills, and they're not even really sure where to find them. So I think it's a combination of that coupled with people's responses, and it's a fear-based response to what is happening.
Yeah.
So what do they do? The economy, with what has happened, whether you believe we're in a recession or we're going into a recession, or you believe that, with the market volatility the way that it is, and it's harder to get customers through your door, or whatever it is, people's response to it is normally to contract. And what does that mean? We have layoffs. There's been tons of layoffs. We cut budgets. We cut spending. So yeah, people's budgets are shrinking, and at the same time, I mean, middle level managers are being asked to do things that they've never been able to do before. So they don't have the knowledge and the skills. So you're in an environment that has never celebrated learning necessarily. Okay, they say they do, but when you get down to the reality of it, they don't. So you've been in that culture, and now all of a sudden you're being asked to do extra things and to learn stuff, and you're like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So, and with those cuts and with the changes in budgets that businesses have made, it just, like I said, it breeds a lot of fear, because people are like, okay, here we go back to the toxic productivity. If I don't do my job, I'm going to lose my job. If I don't do this, I'm going to get demoted, or I'm not going to get a raise, and I really need it because of look at how the economy is. And so it's just, it turns into this cycle. So to break the cycle, leaders need to change. They need to change the way that they think about, first of all, growth. Second of all, initiatives, and what really needs to be focused on now. And third is really to have that future focused vision, and that growth mindset, because that's the only thing that's going to change. That needs to change, I should say.
And I think the vision sometimes gets sacrificed for current climate. Like you have a vision, and then whatever's going on now or currently changes the vision. And that's something I wanted to talk to you today about too. Like how, when we first started working together, that was one of the first things you asked me to do, or asked me to explain, what is your vision? And I was like, to sell some clothes. I don't know. And then I think I came up with like a mission statement, and you're like, no, what is your vision? And doing that, it was for me like more of like a soul searching exercise. But how do you keep that vision when times are tough? Because sometimes you can't execute the vision in the way that you want to, not because of anything you can control.
So first of all, you can't base what you want to do and where you want to go on current circumstance, because things are going to change. Businesses go through a cycle every 5 years. I read something yesterday in Forbes magazine, and they were saying that the economy used to change every 5 to 10, then it changed every 2 to 3 years. Now it changes every 2 to 3 months. So things are constantly going to be changing. And if you're planning what you want to do with your business based on today, yes, you need to be aware of it. You need to be aware of what's happening in your business. But if you can't plan your future based on what's happening today, because it's going to change.
Yeah.
It's going to change. So as I had a conversation with someone this morning, when you're looking at your vision, first of all, if your vision doesn't scare the crap out of you, then
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I always make my visions realistic, incredibly realistic.
No, your vision for what you want to do, really, you should say to yourself when you set that higher level, this is what I want to do in 3 years. I always tell people, your vision is the future that you want to create, the difference that you want to make with your team, with your business, what you do outside of what you're doing today. Okay. So if you set your vision, if you're like, wow, this looks realistic, I can do this. You're not stretching far enough.
Okay.
So it should really you should really look at it and say, I have no freaking idea how I'm going to do this, but we're going to figure it out and we're going to do it. And if you can say that, then you're on to something. So a lot of people, when they set their vision, again, they base it on current circumstance. I mean, I have a lot of people who say, and I run multiple businesses. And whenever we are looking, and business owners make this mistake all the time. They take their results from a previous year and they say, okay, what do we think we can do? Well, we think we can do a 20% increase. Okay, well, let's just put that number on there. Let's just slap that number on there and we're going to do 20% increase. Instead of, and I did this exercise with one of the business leaders in one of the companies that I lead. I said to her, what do you think with this new revenue stream, if we really stretched and we were the best at this, what do you think we could really do? And she gave me a number. It was what did we say? It was 200,000, 250,000, brand new thing. And I said, okay, so let's now back into this. This is our vision, to have us be the best retailer in this pop-up market, and we're going to do first year 250,000. And she said to me, well, in the previous year, in the previous version of this, we only did 50. That's a huge increase. And I'm like, yeah, but if we're going to be the best at it, and I only train the best, I only train people who want to get in the ring and get dirty and make a vision happen, because that's what the world needs. Then we can't just slap on some kind of a factor onto our previous numbers and then say, oh yeah, here's our vision. No, we need to look at it and say, okay, what is it that we want to create? What future do we want to build? What difference do we want to make? And then start backing into it and saying, okay, what do we need to do in the next year? What do we need to do in the next 6 months? What do we need to do? And kind of start to chunk it down into, what do we need to do today? Okay. That's how you're functioning, when you're looking at and being aware of and being present in the current moment, and how that then relates to that future that you want to build. So with Rin, your big vision was, I want to have my own product line. Yep. That's a big vision. Yes. And the difference that you want to make with it is that you want to create clothing that people feel good in, sustainable material, natural material. It's good for you. It's not, so that's stretching. So if we looked at your numbers and we were to say, okay, we're not just going to add on a random factor. Most people, I don't know why, but most people say, we're just going to do 20% more.
I know. What is that? Is it just like the standard? Like you should be increasing by 20%? I think that's actually a lot, first of all.
Yeah.
Especially
Well, some
business.
industries it is. Yeah. Some industries it is. Retail industry, it's like, okay, let's do 20% more.
Yeah.
But I look at it, many businesses don't do this to say, who are we and what do we stand for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what are our customers, really knowing your customer and saying, what are they really struggling with right now? And these are I know these are conversations that you and I have just
Yeah.
about the work that I do. I don't think enough people, enough businesses, enough leaders don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They solely look at the numbers. They solely look at, revenue or profit.
Yeah.
Even like just looking at their product and saying, what is it that what did we do last year and what do we want to get to next year? Instead of looking at it and saying, who are we and what do we really do for people? And then asking yourself like a simple question of, wouldn't it be crazy cool if we did what?
Yeah.
And then build it out from there. So really, your vision is the bridge that gets you from a dream. It's the bridge between your dream, like this big, crazy, audacious dream, and your goals. Your vision is kind of what solidifies it to say, I have this big dream. Like if I said, I have this big dream to be a well-known thought leader. Well, the vision, and then my goals are, okay, here are the actual action steps and things milestones that I'm going to work towards. Your vision is the in-between to say, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, it means I want to be a New York Times bestselling author and have a top, book on leadership and building a healthy culture. And I want to so I'm starting to really form that vision based on that big dream that I had. And I just thought of this. This is off the cuff. People don't dream anymore.
No, I don't think so either. And it might be partially because there's not enough people like you. So the two of us, you're very like a glass half full, and I am a glass half empty, which is not a bad thing.
No, you're not.
Well, not like I'm very happy-go-lucky in my demeanor, but like when I think about, I'm a realist, we'll say that. So for me, like a vision is pie in the sky, and I struggle with it because I'm like, okay, sticking with my vision would mean not pivoting. And I don't think that's true either. I think there's a right way to pivot, but how do we know when to pivot? Or if it should be a pivot, or if this is just a distraction because I see somebody else doing something and I feel like I should do that too. Like, how do we stay on course and then know when it's time to pivot?
Good question. I was recently asked, well, with everything that's happening in the economy, I'm in a business group, a mastermind, and this woman asked, with everything that's happening in the economy, like, how are you all pivoting? And, everybody was saying, oh, well, we're switching to this, and I was like, well, I'm not pivoting. I'm not pivoting anything. The only thing I'm pivoting is the way that I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, first of all, people give up way too quickly. So when something doesn't work the first time, so back to the conversation I had with someone this morning, we were talking about lead generation, and she was like, well, I don't think I do it. And then we ended up talking about how, and it's actually her grandmother that does this. She's the one that calls people who have attended a free class that she does. She actually calls people because she has a telemarketing background.
Yeah.
And she said, well, she said, she goes, we abandoned the whole thing. She goes, because, she spent a couple hours on the phone with people, and she only got 2 calls. She only got 2 sales. And I said, well, how many people did she talk to?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I'm not sure. I think 15. I go,
oh, that's great.
2 sales from 15 calls, 1 call, not even multiple calls, one call.
Right.
And she said, oh, she goes, well, we abandoned it. And I said, well, you gave up too early.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do that. We live in a world of instant gratification and instant results. And when you don't, and entrepreneurship is just not that.
No.
So, and really, if you really want to be a difference maker, that's not what it is either.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to get ready so you can be ready. And getting ready means that you're going to have to get in there, and you're going to have to like put something out there, and it's not going to work. And then you're going to make a tweak, and then you're not going to work. And people just and they use pivot, like pivot is used all over the place.
Yeah.
And the truth is really, it's not pivoting. You're just giving up. You're just quitting. So you have to be willing to give something a shot and try it again and tweak it and make small tweaks to it. And you asked, how do you know when it's time to pivot? Honestly, I really don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. I think that, first of all, as woo-woo as it sounds, I think your gut tells you when something is no longer in alignment with what you believe and what you're doing. You know, so if you are, for example, you did this.
Yeah.
Your core belief was, I want to sell clothing and buy from people who, you know, have a shared sustainable belief, who want to save the planet, who care about values. And so when it came time for you to shift your focus into private label, you did that because it was no longer in alignment with you.
Yeah.
That's a positive pivot.
Yeah.
I think that when, you know, also if like I run a restaurant, and when we look at stuff and when we look at menu items and they're just no longer selling. And even though we've said, okay, well, let's tweak presentation, let's tweak the recipe, let's tweak the size. So when you've done all of these different things, then you ask yourself, is this something that we need to rest? But you can't do it without trying things first. And I think, I think a lot of people, they just give up. And I've seen a lot of, big businesses. And here's the other thing. The other way that you can know when to make a pivot is when you do your research. When you actually, Netflix, for example, how Netflix got to be what Netflix is, looking at it, and they started off one way. And then they looked at it and said, what does the market really need? Like, where are we missing? Like, what is the pain point in the market? Or what is the thing that's not working that everybody else is doing, but how can we make it better? Or how can we make it different? And I think looking outside of your industry for inspiration to bring into your business, to look at it and say, you know what? I think we can do this and make a positive pivot and move in this better direction. Because we've done the research, we've looked at things, we've seen the pattern, and now it's time for us to shift. Yeah,
I think that's true. And today when you see the overnight success stories, it can be really, and I think that's sometimes when people quit and they're like, well, I'm 5-10 years into this and I haven't even seen success yet. And I think I'm probably, 3 years into this, 4 years. And it's fine, but you think that you're going to be this rock star overnight. And I think that's defeating too. And slow and steady does win the race, but it's hard to cancel out the noise when you think that you should be somewhere that you're not. And that's hard too. And then you have to take a big pivot. Like I had to pull everything out of Portugal because of the tariffs. And so now I'm like, okay, starting over, this is going to take another 6 months, and trying to not be frustrated, but going back to, this is my vision and this is where I want to be. And if it takes me 10 years, great. If it takes me 2 years, great. But not being so hung up on, it took this girl 6 months and it's taken me this long. And I think that's something that's probably hard for everybody. But it makes people quit when you look and see what other people are doing and you're like, well, I must not be cut out for this, so I'm just going to quit.
Oh, I mean, social media, and a mentor of mine has been saying this for years, and I know it to be true myself because I've done it. But social media has like, I think it's really just elevated that comparison, like
Mhm.
comparing yourself to everybody else that you see on social
Yeah.
media, comparing to everybody else that you see around you and thinking, I need to do that. So we should all over ourselves and
Yep.
think that we should be further. We should do this. We should do that. And, you know, the truth of the matter is that we all have our unique path.
Yeah.
And saying that I should be further along, really what you're saying is I need to be on somebody else's path. And
Right.
that's just not how humanity is. We each have our own unique individual path. And I think social media has just made it so much worse for people
Hmm.
because it's created a lot of judgment and
Hmm.
it's created a lot of like comparing ourselves and then feeling like I'm not enough.
Hmm.
So I think really having that unwavering dedication to your vision, um, I mean, first and foremost, you have this dream and you've created this vision, this future that you want to create, the thing that you want to build, that difference that you want to make for others, and really staying, you know, really true to that and having some agreements with yourself
Hmm.
to say, you know, number one, I am the one and only Katy Hommes. Nobody
Hmm.
else can be like me. And having an agreement with yourself that you tell yourself that constantly. And
Yeah.
my results are exactly that. They're going to be my results.
Yeah.
Nobody else's. Man, I need to like listen to my own dang
I
advice.
was just going to tell you, I'm like, when we're done with this, we're going to go back and listen to it.
We're going to go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
Um, we are.
We'll be good.
And but it's so true and I'm not immune to it. I do it myself,
Hmm.
you know, and I'm willing to say that. But I have seen so many times people, you know, retail store owners, restaurant owners who say, well, so and so is offering this type of, you know, a prefix menu, happy hour menu, you know, and we need to do it. And they're doing it at this price. We need to sell Guinness at, you know, $10 a glass or whatever. I don't even know how much Guinness costs, but $10 a glass because so and so is selling
Is
it.
that how much it is?
I don't know. It's something, but
I live in Wisconsin. All the beers are real cheap.
they're cheap here too, just
Okay.
not Guinness. But I mean, it's like, so what do they end up doing? They're looking at somebody else and they're trying to do what somebody else is doing,
Hmm.
not knowing that that person might potentially have a completely broken cost structure
Right.
and and isn't doing things right either. And their prefix, you know, menu idea, it's not working.
Hmm.
And I mean, I actually like it's something that the one business that I run, we ran a prefix menu idea for dinner offerings
Hmm.
because we saw other people doing it. And guess what? It didn't work.
Yeah.
Because again, you have to go back and you have to say, okay, what makes me different? What makes you different? No matter if you're SAP or you're RIN or you're Theresa Cantley LLC, what makes you different is the story behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
So as long as you know, you keep focusing on that, but also at the same time, you're focusing on how can I help other people with what I do,
Hmm.
um, like stay rooted in that,
Yeah.
you know, and say to yourself, okay, well, yeah, we see the competition doing, you know, XYZ.
Hmm.
Okay, this looks good. Like we like this idea, we like that idea, and then making it your own,
Hmm.
doing your own thing with it. So
Yeah.
instead of, you know, the prefix menu idea I just said, instead of doing that, we actually want to have a separate menu because we know we sell a lot of desserts. We know people like our desserts. So
Hmm.
we want to do a dessert and a dessert cocktail menu and
Oh.
have that as like almost like a
Hmm.
prefixed dessert thing. You know, and doing something that you know is embracing your strengths.
Yeah. I think too, like with that, for me, it was always hard getting, I'm like, why would somebody buy clothing from me? There's a million other places that you can buy clothing from, you know? So to figure out what is unique, and I think right now, especially people are craving something that's different. So if you're doing a prefix menu and down the road they are too, like they don't want that. They want what you have to offer. They don't want what somebody else has to offer. They'll just go there. And that took me a really long time to figure out, yeah, my stuff is the same as theirs, but I charge more. Well, they don't know that my materials are better, that I'm working directly with the brands, that I have, they don't know all of those things. They have to learn it from me and understand it from me. And that's why they'll have to, come be a customer.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of misinformation about how, especially when you're like a solopreneur, you don't have ideas to balance out. You're just like, all right, I'm just going to do that because they're doing that and it's working. Let's do that too. And I've never had something work that I have done that with. I tried to do like this fancy newsletter scenario that was like, I won't even get into it. I paid all this money for somebody to teach me how to like craft this. It was silly. And I'm like, what? This is not me. I'm never going to keep up with this. My customers don't want anything to do with this. They don't care. And I was just doing it because I saw other people do it.
People feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I've done it myself over the past decade.
Yeah.
People feel it. If it's not you, if it's not true to you, people feel it. And you don't even realize that they do. But people, and that's the thing about human beings, is that connection. Whether or not you truly are connected to someone or you're not, that connection that we have as humans, it comes through all the time. And that's how people are able to, feel that something isn't in alignment with you.
Yeah.
Even though they don't even know you, they can feel it.
Yeah.
They can see it. And that's why just doing something because everybody else is doing it. Well, again, you might be perpetuating the problem that they've created, but also it's not in alignment with who you are. And at the end of the day, your business is a true representation of you and what you stand for and your values and your personality. And, that's why like some of the original tech people that started companies, the ones that were like super stodgy and brainy and, whatever, like the tech company, like everything kind of was built off of that. And the ones that were like innovative and creative and like true pioneers, that company was built off of that. So
yeah. I mean, it's just such a competitive place that you have to stand in your own area to be able to succeed. I've learned that from you. It's true.
Aww. That makes me feel good.
Oh my gosh, you've taught me so many things. Mostly how to be like confident and resilient, because I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome. And so being able to be, hey, I can do this. Everybody starts somewhere and I'm not going to give up. Because I come to a lot with like when I move things out of Portugal because of the tariffs, I'm like, I might just be done. And you're like, no, you're not done.
Always need to look for the lesson. The lesson and the learning. There are lessons and learnings, and I have found this out so much in the past 2 years, really in the past 5. There are so many lessons and learnings that we don't look for in the obstacles and the challenges that we face on a regular basis, more than the wins. And people only ever want to look at the wins and look at that positive stuff that happens. They never, like in a challenge or an obstacle or even like trauma and stuff that happens, like there's a lot that we can learn from that. And we can use, whether it's in our everyday life or in business building or whatever. And when we don't look for those things, we miss out on so much. And I can say myself over the past 5 years, and just, growing from a lot of the things that I have battled through, and that I've been through, between death and health issues and, just doing things differently in my own business. There's been a lot of lesson and learning from those down times.
Yeah. Probably learn the most in those times than you do.
Absolutely.
Wins.
Yeah. Well, Katy, this is an amazing conversation. Do you have any last final thoughts or things that you would like to share with the audience?
I don't think I have any final things to share, but thoughts. I just appreciate you and your wisdom and
thank you.
You're just so helpful. And like these conversations, even it shifts your perspective and you have such a nice outlook on everything. Like I was saying, the half empty, half full. You're the yin to my yang.
You know what? You know what? I saw someone say this. Don't look at it as half full or half empty. Just be thankful that you have the glass.
Ooh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I was like, okay, I'm just going to tweak it.
Yeah. Yep.
And use it.
Glass. That's good.
But he said it a bit different, but that was kind of the gist of it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's true.
but it is. I mean, you definitely are the yin to my yang.
Yeah.
And
We should do this again.
Oh, hey, everybody, we're gonna do this live on LinkedIn every week.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm definitely gonna have Katy back on my show. And we have been throwing around the idea of a live podcast, which we are actually gonna do. So maybe because she is across the country from me. So we are actually gonna do a live podcast episode. We might actually record when Katy and I go to New York City to the Fabric District. We might have to document that.
Fun. Oh, yeah. Marking it down. It's part of my vision.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And thank you so much for everything that you do. You make my life so much better for being in it and have just made such a difference in my world. And I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you.
To be here.
You. Thank you.
Thankful for you.
So, all right, everybody, thank you for joining us. And until next week, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your week. And let's all take care of each other just a little bit more than we already do. Bye for now. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on this show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.